as much as you want to, keep an even keel here, and we're going to, but it does have the makings to be one of those kind of victories that causes you to rethink this entire season. And that's one end of it. I think it was so convincing and so thorough and so I think just overwhelming in terms of the way they controlled the line of scrimmage. It makes you wonder, not necessarily where this has been, because I think we understand what went on to get to this point, but where this could be headed.
Well, that's it, right? And so that I think is fascinating in a week like this, because now you have to turn the page quickly, right? And you have to go on the road again in a couple days to go play the Dallas Cowboys in their building with a defense that can take you apart. And I picked the Commanders 2 weeks ago to beat the Bears because I was worried about how a young team would handle preparation in a short week. This is a little bit longer than that, but it's still a short week that's going to be very demanding on how quickly you can reset and refocus and get yourself absorbed into a new game plan, right? That is going to require you to be very sharp and efficient and crisp to be able to keep Dan Quinn and Micah Parsons and the rest of that Cowboys defense at bay. And so this is going to be fascinating to see what they can do with this. Listen, you know what locker rooms are like after wins like Monday nights, right? There's a level of satisfaction, a level of understandable jubilance. But in the Bears locker room on Monday night, there was also an understanding that, look, we know who we are right now, and we're not going to get out over our skis and start attaching bigger picture significance to this than there was. Cole Kmet was asked, hey, is this a turning point? And he said, look, slow down, right? Like, pump the brakes. Let's not get out in front of ourselves and start calling every little bit of success we have a turning point. But it certainly had the feeling of an effort that can be replicated. And if it can be replicated and become consistent, now all of a sudden you're climbing the stairs to becoming relevant again. And that's where I think this week now has to be a stair climb, right? You can't be generating this momentum, David, and then all of a sudden stumbling back 4 steps where a week from now we're talking about them getting drubbed in Dallas and all of this being left behind so quickly.
It's a good point. It definitely, you need some perspective. Just like if things were bad and they got trounced, you'd have the same sort of cautionary words. So I appreciated what you had to write on ChicagoTribune.com. I wrote my column on 670thescore.com. I think everyone's going to have their takeaways. This, I guess, generally speaking, is the way that I look at what happened on Monday night in Foxborough. Is that did not expect the Bears to look like a team on the rise. And then it was unmistakable that this looked like a team that may not have all the talent yet. They certainly don't have all the holes filled yet. We've been talking about what they have in terms of offseason cap space and draft capital. And there's some people still out there maybe want them to tank to get a better draft pick. But I do think what I took away from them being able to beat the Patriots as soundly as they did, and to do it in the fashion that they did, this looks like a team that understands and embraces coaching. And I love how Matt Eberflus explained it. And from being a Midwestern guy, a son of the Mac, and listen, he's speaking my language, and I'm just, as transparent as I can be. He talked about practice, and he talked about individual sessions being longer, and he talked about the relationship between the position coach and the player, and how that is the core of every good football team. And I'm telling you what, Dan, this stuff is corny. It is old-fashioned, but you know what I felt like last night proved? It's also working.
Yeah, it's being able to put this in a strainer, right, and sift out the corn and see what comes into the bowl beneath it, right? And I think there's some real substance to some of this stuff. And I wrote down in my notes, I'm glad you brought it up, day after game for me, like I can show you here, there are so many notes written in so many different pockets of my piece of paper because there's so many things to talk about. And one of the things I wrote down was Matt's sort of emphasis on this position coach player relationship as the foundation of things that he's trying to build inside Hallis Hall. And that's all about how do we get guys to focus every single day of the week on the fundamentals and techniques that we're teaching them so that when moments come in a game, they can execute those, right? And corny or not corny, that is a formula for succeeding at a high level in this league. Now, you need talent. You need guys who do this on an everyday basis to get to the highest levels here. But I think part of leadership, David, is providing direction. And I think the one thing that I've been thoroughly impressed with Matt Eberflus since he got here is the fact that he is so very specific and clear with the direction he gives his players and his coaches. And you see results in moments like Monday, and you say, okay, use this as fuel to get you where you ultimately want to go.
That's the word too, leadership. The Bears needed his kind of leadership. And the one thing about being a good leader is you have to be consistent. You have to be structured. You have to be organized, and you have to be who you are. And that's the one thing I really appreciate about what Matt Eberflus has been so far through 7 games or through 8 months or however long it's been. This is a guy who is true to himself and whoever he is at 52 years old, the first-time NFL head coach. And Dan, that's why there were a lot of plays that stood out, and there's some great stuff that we'll talk about, the sidearm throw, this and that. I have to say, the one play that I found myself smiling, caught myself smiling at was 4th and 2, 25 seconds left. The Bears took a knee. The Bears took a knee because they didn't need to prove anything. They didn't need to show off. And he was asked about that on Monday after the game. Matt Eberflus, why didn't you try to score down there? A lot of coaches might have, Dan. We all have seen examples where guys would have. And he just said his respect for the game. And he shrugged. And that's I love that about the way this Bears season, the way this Bears coaching staff is structured. They're just doing their jobs, and they have a respect for every step along the way.
I'll push back on you a little bit on that one, because they did try to score on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down on that same series inside the 10-yard line, and Treston Ebner just couldn't take any of his 3 chances across the goal line. As that was unfolding, we had made our way down at the 2-minute warning into the tunnel to watch the rest of it up on the screen, given where that game was at. And I think there was a general sense that, wow, wouldn't it be really cool if the Bears could tack 40 on Belichick in Gillette Lab Stadium? No, I mean, look like it would have been, look like you and I don't talk about 30-point outings ever, right? Like the last time the Bears scored 30 was in December of 2020 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's how long it goes. I was walking out of the stadium in New Jersey after the Bears lost to the Giants, right? They didn't score a touchdown the whole day. It was, what was the final of that? 20-12, 23-12, somewhere in there, right? And Mark Potash and I were talking about, wouldn't it be cool one week to go into a locker room and have to ask a team about like the 3rd or the 4th touchdown that they had in the game, right? Like these basic things. And last night, one of those, you said it at the start of this segment, that there were moments you've got a list on your play sheet of, we could talk about this for 3 minutes. We could talk about this there were so many moments where the Bears offense, defense, and special teams made big plays where you go, wow, that's what winning football looks like, where you can't even choose which one you want to get to because there's too many on the menu, right? And so you've got to just kind of be selective and highlight a handful.